Viewer discretion is advised. You are listening to Wine and Crime, the podcast where two friends chug wine, chat true crime, and unleash their worst Minnesotan accents.
Yes, we do.
We do. I am Amanda.
I am Lucy.
And I got off to a rocky start because I took a hit off of a pipe I packed the other day, and the weed got real stale, and it tasted awful, and my mouth filled with saliva. Oh, there goes Beans climbing on Blanche's cage to torture him.
Did you suck any of the chunks into your mouth?
I did get a chunk. And so that delayed recording by about 10 minutes because I had to go flush my mouth out and start eating mints. But I'm back. And at least I did get a hit off of it. My Benjamin battery is fucking dead.
You know,
this one's almost empty.
Oh, God.
I ripped a pump site off today.
What does that mean?
Y'all, let me give you a peek behind the curtain as a pump-wearing diabetic.
Okay.
It is so annoying.
Yeah.
to have a pump with tubes. And I love my pump. It has been absolutely life-changing to be on this tandem closed loop system. But the tubes, I went to pick something up from a friend's house earlier today, and it got caught on the little latch in the car door that the car door clicks into.
Oh, no.
And it almost ripped it off, but I felt it, and I was like, whoa, this is a new site. I don't want to ruin this. And then I was getting ready to record, and it ripped off on the bathroom doorknob.
Jesus Christ.
And I just changed my pump yesterday. So it was a fresh site already. And I'm getting close to I'm super close to needing to get a new box of supplies. And they're $1 grillion. So it's just you feel it pull. And it's watching it in slow motion. You're like, no. And then it's already coming off.
So is that just the sticky patch, or is that a fucking
it's the sticky patch that it's the sticky patch that has a little cannula port in it. And then you can disconnect your tubing from it. And then I had to just put on another side patch and reconnect my tubing. I mean, it takes 2 seconds to fix. It's just each one of those fuckers costs $20.
Oh, God.
It's God damn it.
Yeah, that sucks.
It hurts to see that just rip off after a day of use.
Why were your tubes flying all over God's green earth today?
Well, because I forgot to. It's my fault at the end of the day because
I'm sure.
Usually, everything usually is. I usually tuck it into my bra for this exact reason, so I can have all my tubing under my clothes, so they're not just loose.
Mm-hmm.
But I was kind of running. And I just stuck my pump in my pocket.
Oh.
And so I had loose tubing. Also, it's super laundry day. So I'm in this very ridiculous outfit that I would wear even if it wasn't laundry day.
I like your outfit.
Thank you. It's a very 90s vibe that I have going right now. But my undergarments are ludicrous.
What are they?
I am wearing
tissue thin.
Oh, tissue, I'm wearing sex underwear. Almost penetrable sex underwear.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Is it edible?
It's not edible, but honestly.
One step up.
It would be safe to eat. It wouldn't be hard to pass. You could easily digest this.
Okay.
So I have to do laundry after this. Anyway, that's my update on how day's been going.
So there have been better days.
It's honestly still a pretty good day.
Yeah.
I don't have bad depression symptoms today, and I got a great night's sleep. So thank God, if all these annoying things are going to happen on a day, have it be a day where serotonin is actually flowing.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to see you and be here.
Oh, I'm excited for this recording today.
Yeah, we have a very special fan pick from one of our Hog Girl Summer winners, Denise Average, but you're far from average.
You're well above average.
You are so above average, Denise. And they have picked the topic of Scranton crimes.
We've already done Pennsylvania crimes.
We have, but not specific to Scranton. And
No.
I also scrambled to get this uploaded into our Riverside today. So we can talk about Scranton crimes! I don't want to get sued, so I'm gonna fade this out.
So I actually fucking hate that song because I've watched so many episodes of The Office.
You know the beef I have with it is that the cold open audio is like really nicely balanced, and then it hard cuts to the theme song, and it is blasting you out of your chair.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why do they do that?
I don't know. There's something about that song which to me these days is so fucking abrasive.
I skip it every time. I can't.
Do too.
If I make it past just the little piano part, I'm like clawing my eyes out.
Yeah.
Yep. Can't do it.
Yeah. Once the what is that even, like a harmonica kicks in? Absolutely not.
No. I think I have such a negative association with it now because I've fallen asleep to that show so many times, and that blasting horn or whatever the fuck that is has woken me from a deep sleep, like sweating and in fear, like I'm being attacked.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Sheer panic.
I wonder how many other people who have watched so many episodes of The Office have the exact same reaction specifically to that theme song.
I know it's a lot because I'm on the Office subreddit.
Oh, okay.
For the memes, baby. And people feel very similarly.
Okay.
That and are also pissed that the song is so fucking loud, like shockingly loud.
It's shockingly loud. It's like just a little too long.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear it start, I'm just like, no. Finding the clicker. Please, God, skip it.
It's a very, if you're not a vape person and you've never screeched, where the fuck is my vape, but you have panicked, fumbled for your remote to skip the Office theme because you don't want to experience it, it's the same line in a different font. It's exactly the same
It's
feeling.
like a rage.
Yes. An instant rage.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, Scranton crimes, baby. We're doing it.
We're doing it. And we will be coming back to The Office, obviously.
Yeah, I am sure we will. But before we do, I want to recommend, I was looking into wineries in the Scranton area and Lackawanna County, baby. Y'all have some good options.
The terroir is interesting.
I have been to Scranton. I officiated a wedding up there. It's actually the scene of where I went to see Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, by myself, really high, and had like a panic attack.
And you called me and you're like, I'm the only adult in this theater. Should I feel weird?
There was a cop outside.
Well,
I was like, this is not safe. They know. I'm a predator.
Didn't you walk there because your motel was right next door or something?
I didn't walk there, but there was a Dairy Queen right next to my motel, and I did walk there and informed you of that. No, I timed my gummy. I took it like right before getting in the car, and I had like a 15-minute drive. So my high was setting in when I parked. And it was, when I saw the cop, and I panicked. And the only people I needed to reach out to were you and my husband.
The sight of a police officer, a law enforcement officer, often does trigger the setting in of a weed gummy.
And Pennsylvania is also not a legal state. So I was like, I could get in trouble here. This could be bad. But you know what? It was fine. I didn't predator any children. I had a normal night.
And the movie wasn't bad.
The movie was lovely. So I wanted to shout out an area winery. It's not in Scranton, but like we can't always get what we want, okay? It's called Cellar Beast, Beast, and I am obsessed. Their branding is stellar. The winery looks gorgeous.
I'd get married at the Cellar Beast.
I totally would too. They do all these cool tastings and events. You can get married there. You know, it's It's pretty fun. So they were established in 2021 in Andreas, Pennsylvania. And Cellar Beast proudly stands as a woman and veteran-owned winery. The business was born from an unexpected bond between passionate winemakers and entrepreneurial wine enthusiasts. And together, Cellar Beast has carved out a unique spot in the world of wine, driven by a commitment to traditional quality and unparalleled passion. And I gotta say, looking at their selection, they have some beautiful looking wines. Like, a couple of the ones that caught my eye, they have a Cab Franc rosé that looks exceptional. Like, it's this beautiful pale pink. It just, if it looks half as good as it, or if it tastes half as good as it looks, I would be over the fucking moon. I definitely want to order some of this. But they have a huge selection. They carry a ton of classic wines. They have Chardonnays, they have Gewürztraminer, they have beautiful red blends, Cab Franc,
Sauvignon
Blanc, Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir, like a lot of the old standbys. But then they also have some really fun ones, like they have a Carmenere, which I would love to try. One of their wines they call the Grand Melange, and it's a red wine blend that has some really fun ones in there. But the one specifically that I wanted to highlight today, mostly because I'm sure, as always happens, we're going to have some dark shit to talk about today. And the label on this wine is so beautiful. It's also marked as an award winner. It is the 2021 Dark Angel Red.
Ooh, I've got a Dark Angel in my case.
I bet you do. The Dark Angel is their flagship red. It's sourced from a single vineyard in the heart of Yakima Valley, Washington. I should know that. At the Ponton del Rosa Vineyard. So something fun about Cellar Beast, they do grow some of their own grapes, but then they are also like, they focus so much on wine making and not so much the full farm to table experience, which I actually kind of appreciate, because it can be hard to make these classics, to grow them in viticultural areas like the northeast of the country. It's very cold there. A lot of these grapes are just not hardy enough to withstand those kinds of temperatures. And so you really can't make, a Carmenere or a Cab Franc. It's harder to grow in that area. So they're sourcing these wines from other vineyards in the US and kind of partnering with other places that can grow it better. And then they're putting their own spin on it by doing the actual wine making, fermentation, everything in-house, which I think is such a cool approach.
That probably percentage-wise, what do you think has more effect? Well, obviously the varietal would have the most effect on the flavor. Mm-hmm. But the processing and the stuff that happens after you harvest the grapes is pretty important,
I would say, Of utmost importance, the varietal is going to determine the majority of the flavor profile, but then the aging, like how they're doing the aging, is going to have the second highest impact. Because if they're aging, on French oak, or if they're aging in stainless steel or concrete, like that, the aging process after the initial fermentation affects the flavor of the wine so much before it goes into the bottle. So they still get a lot of agency over how they want the final product to taste, just using the baseline flavor profile of grapes that they can access from other places in the country. So I think it's a super cool concept. You're still getting this locally made wine. Mm-hmm. The grapes just weren't necessarily all grown locally, which, there are benefits to both. Yeah. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
This specific bottle is 94% Carmenere and 6% Petit Verdot. It was aged for 16 months in 20% new French oak and 80% neutral French oak. So that's going to showcase, they're saying, it's showcasing the quality of this gorgeous fruit. New French oak is going to have a stronger flavor profile effect. So they're using less of that and then doing 80% of the neutral, which is like aged a little to get some of that like really strong woody, oaky element. Mm-hmm. It kind of fades from the wood over time, just like anything else that has a scent. It's just going to kind of fade out with the years. So this is a cool peek into how they're making this wine. Again, they're not growing the grapes, but they're getting creative with how they age these after fermentation to achieve a really special flavor profile that's unique to cellar based. And I just think that's so fucking cool. It's unique. This one is 13.7% ABV. It is a popper. It kind of looks like everything that they offer is corked and not capped. So except for their sparkling. The Blanc Noir is you could just pull that bad boy. But
I was looking at that Blanc Noir.
Isn't it gorgy?
It's so pretty. It's like a really light looking rosé, but I clicked on it. It's sparkling. It's champagne style.
I don't know who the fuck is doing their graphic design,
branding.
But it's really good. I mean, I love seeing graphic design on bottles from all ends of the spectrum, and some smaller wineries just don't have the access
the budget
to an in-house incredible artist. But all these labels are incredible. The June Bit looks so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I want to try all of these wines. I know they do tastings. They have a wine club.
I feel like Lisa Vanderpump would approve of these wines.
Yes, this feels very Vanderpump approved. Whoever has built their website, done their branding, y'all are crushing it. And we are very interested in hanging out with you and maybe paying your winery a visit.
Hell yeah.
But if you are interested in checking them out, go to cellarbeastwine.com. That's CELLARBEAST wine.com. Check out their beautiful profile. You can schedule visits. They do guided tastings. You can do events there. They host private events. It just seems like they're really going for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, as you know, I got high before this because it's noon and I cannot put away a bunch of red wine right now. And also I wanted to feature a winery that unfortunately I'm not able to access. But Lucy, are you sipping on anything today?
I sure am, because we're recording a drunk dive after this and Corey's picking up June. So
God damn right.
I'm day drinking and I found this at the liquor store. It's called Punch Out.
Ooh.
Vodka smoothie. Speaking of good branding.
Cute. Yeah, that's adorable.
And this is the Coco Cabana blend, which is pineapple, cherry, and citrus. I don't know what to expect. Vodka smoothie kind of scared me, but
I need you to taste that right now. Would you like to crack it for us?
I'm going to crack it.
Okay.
Here we go.
Oh. Ooh, that was beyond a nice crack. That was commercial crack.
Yeah. And here's my commercial pour.
Oh. It looks tasty.
Yeah, it looks like a beer, but it doesn't smell like one.
Chug, 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 chug.
Okay, that's fucking good.
Is it smoothie in this sort of creamy way? Where does the smoothie aspect come in?
It's translucent, but it does taste a little bit thicker.
Okay. It looks like a pale ale.
Yeah. It kind of has that same mouthfeel, but it's sweet and tart from the pineapple.
Mother.
This is good. I got 3 more in the fridge.
Atta girl. All right, well, I might have to go to the liquor store after this because that sounds pretty fucking good.
So I think the brand is called Untitled Art, but this is called Punch Out.
Cute.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to look up if that is available locally. Welcome back to the show that you never left. There was just an ad. Oh God, Lucy's like a mom on the prowl right now. She's like, it's been so long since I had the taste of alcohol on my mouth.
Lips have been wet,
moistened by the sweet, succulent taste of the booze, the vodka smoothie.
The vodka smoothie.
The vodka smoothie. Well, while you're sipping, do you want to also maybe give us background, probably not psych, and possibly a case on Scranton Cream?
Yes, I do. And I do have a case.
You do? Do you have psych?
No.
Ha, no!
I have fun facts about The Office, though.
Fuck yeah, shake your bones.
Oh, right. I was dancing with it.
I love it.
Okay, Scranton is a part of Lackawanna County in northeastern Pennsylvania. According to the City of Scranton's website, it was incorporated in 1866.
Scranton, what? The Electric City.
We'll get to the Electric City. It was named in honor of George W. and Selden Scranton, who founded the operation that became the Lackawanna Iron and Coal Company in 1840.
Were they a couple, or were they like brothers, or were they father and son?
I think they were brothers.
So they were a couple.
Yes. They were a couple of men.
They were a couple of men who might have been brothers.
Maybe brothers, maybe lovers.
Maybe brother lovers.
I'm choosing not to look it up for confirmation one way or the other. The land was initially inhabited by the Capoose and Lenape Indian tribes, with white people ruining things in the mid-18th century.
As per usual.
It's what we do.
Right on schedule.
The area was initially known as Deep Hollow, and its permanent white settlement dates back to 1788. Before being named Scranton in 1851, the area was also known as Unionville, Slocum Hollow, Harrison, and, my favorite, Scrantonia.
Okay, bring back Scrantonia.
I know. Scranton is just a hideous name.
It doesn't sound great. Like, it's close enough to scrotum. And it's just kind
Sounds
of a
like
harsh, scratch.
Yeah. Scramble.
Scramble, Scranton. Scrantonia has an air of... It's very demure. It's very mindful, as the kids are saying.
It is mindful. It's demure.
Mindful.
And I like the Scrantonia Strangler.
Oh, God.
That
The
sounds great.
Scrantonia Strangler would be so good.
So, as Amanda mentioned, Scranton is also nicknamed the Electric City.
Scranton, what?
On December 6th, 1880, electric lights were introduced at Dixon Locomotive Works, only mere months after Thomas Edison improved the electric light bulb so that it was appropriate for commercial use.
So they were one of the early cities
Yes.
to have electricity.
Yes.
Okay.
So honestly, that must have been really cool, but also not, because that meant that people had to work later after the sun went down. And yes, I'm still thinking about the trauma that was labor crimes.
Yeah, it's for real.
The Scranton's steel mills were the second plant to install electric lighting. The first public demonstration of electric lights in the city of Scranton occurred at the Authors Carnival, which opened on April 25th, 1887. During this time, the city's streetlights were lit by acetylene gas lamps. But local architect Arthur Frothingham is credited with promoting electricity use for street lighting. So he's like,
Arthur Frothingham.
He's like, they look better, they work better,
He was
they last
frothing
longer.
at the mouth to update these bulbs.
He sure was, that Arthur. Aside from Scranton, only the neighboring boroughs of Dunmore and Carbondale lit their streets with electric lights. The other boroughs did not install streetlights until electric lamps had become a tried and genuine innovation. So Scranton really risked it all.
They laid it all on the line to become the electric city.
Laid it all on the power line.
Oh! At least I got a little high off of that one disgusting rip, because it would have been such a bummer if I'd put my mouth through that with no effects, but I'm feeling pretty good.
And your throat.
Ugh. Don't even get me started on the
Your
throat.
buds. Taste buds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I love this. It's very sad, but I love it.
Oh, God.
30,000 pounds of bananas is the name of a song by Harry, I don't know if it's Chapin or Chapin. I'm going to go with Chapin.
Okay.
He was a singer.
Chapin Carpenter.
Yeah, something. From his 1974 album called Verities and Balderdash.
Oh.
Very deep.
We don't name albums like we used to.
Paul Simon does.
Verities and Balderdash. Paul Simon does.
But that's it.
basically. Well, and he's like old as shit, so
He's old
enjoy it while it
as
lasts.
shit.
I'm kind of honestly impressed with the longevity of Paul Simon. Like, how are you still alive?
I'm impressed with the longevity of Neil Diamond.
And Neil Diamond is still like out there doing shows.
Is he still?
I think so. I think he still does stuff in Vegas.
Oh, maybe. But not
I don't
like
know if he
touring.
has a residency, but I don't think he's touring. But I think you can still see him from time to time in Las Vegas.
God bless him. I love
I
him.
know.
So the song 30,000 Pounds of Bananas is based on a real-life truck accident that happened on March 18th, 1965 in Scranton.
Oh my God. He basically made a song out of like one of my favorite GAC headlines.
Were they bananas?
Well, my favorite one is the truck that spilled like thousands of plaster vagina molds.
Yeah.
But there's
Those
been a
were
lot
so
of
weird. Each
were
one
some
was
just-
unique.
single severed
Vulvas.
vulvas, plaster white vulvas, littered all over the highway.
That was
Piles of vulvas.
so confusing.
It was shocking.
It
But like,
was.
as long as nobody gets hurt, I do love a truck with odd cargo. Like things that don't belong littered all over a highway. A lot of bananas,
Yeah.
severed vaginas,
Yeah.
to name a few.
Bacon, beans.
Bacon, pigs just roaming,
Oh, no.
blocking traffic, becoming feral, more feral by the second.
Literally.
Literally.
Growing tusks.
Growing tusks.
God. Okay, so back to this truck accident. That fateful day, Gene P. Seski lost control of the truck he was driving, hauling 30,000 pounds of bananas. Go figure. Flying down Moosic Street towards central Scranton, unable to stop because the clutch had failed.
Scary.
He was reaching speeds of more than 100 miles an hour before he crashed at the corner of South Irving Avenue and Moosic Street.
It's hilly up there. I mean, you're like in, what is it? Pocono, not Adirondack, I don't think. I don't remember what like mountain regions come up through there, but like Pennsylvania is gorgeous. It is mountainous and just stunning. But yeah,
well, that's why it was called the Deep Hollow.
If you lose control of your vehicle on one of them hills, you're spilling bananas. Did anyone get hurt in this accident, or is everyone okay?
Oh, Gene died instantly.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Gene.
The driver. As far as I know, nobody else got hurt.
Oh, that's so sad, though.
I know. Here's the ironic part. Harry Chapin himself was killed on July 16th, 1981, while he was on his way to play a show in East Meadow, New York. He was on the Long Island Expressway when I didn't have a lot of information about this. I think something went wrong with his vehicle. So he turned on his flashers and he like slowed way down. But there were reports that he was kind of like weaving between two lanes.
Oh, shit.
But he slowed down to like 15 miles an hour on the expressway, and he was rear-ended by a semi-truck carrying groceries.
Oh, my, but there were probably bananas in there.
Probably some fucking bananas in there. Isn't that wild?
No fucking, listen to me. Shit like this, simulation theory is fucking real. Because like, how?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
I was picturing that scene in City of Angels when she gets hit by the car and all the oranges go rolling around. Or pears or whatever they were.
I need you to know the chokehold that movie had on me when it came out.
Yes.
It was
Meg Ryan's hair.
It was the love story that I want. I was like peak goth phase.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've always loved Nick Cage, like unironically, and I don't care how people feel about that. We have to wrap this up because I know what I'm doing tonight.
You got an itch that needs to be scratched.
I haven't, that just unlocked something in me that's like making me emotional. I haven't thought about that movie in so long, and I must have watched it 100 times when I was like 13.
It reminds me of you.
It made me fall in love with the Goo Goo Dolls.
Yes.
Leather dusters were back
Yeah.
on the table, finally.
Yeah. Finally.
Okay.
Meg's crazy hair. I loved it.
When I was 14, I
Felicity
basically...
could never.
No. I tried to do a Meg Ryan flippy haircut in beet red.
Yeah.
Fire engine red.
I remember.
I've been through it, you guys.
Didn't she have curly hair in that movie, though?
I think she did, but I never had curly hair, so it was the closest I was going to get.
You tried. Didn't work.
I did get 2 perms.
Anyway, so here's a quote from Wikipedia. The force of the collision crushed the rear of the car, ruptured the fuel tank, and dragged the car several hundred feet on the pavement. Passers-by managed to help the unconscious Chapin out of his engulfed 1975 Volkswagen Rabbit. He was choppered out of there, but he died at 1:05 p.m. from internal bleeding. And his widow won $12 million in a wrongful death suit against Supermarkets General, who owned the truck that hit him.
Wow.
So good for her.
Did you listen to the song?
No.
Should we hear a clip of it?
Yes.
Ooh. Okay, Harry Chapin.
I love it.
It was just after dark when the truck started down the hill that leads into Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Oh my God.
This is awesome!
30,000 pounds of banana. And 30,000 pounds hit it big jump of banana.
Woo!
Shut the fuck up!
It was a young driver.
Okay, Harry.
Just out on his second.
Wow, that was awesome!
I'm putting that on a Spotify playlist right
I'm
now.
literally adding it to my music library right now. What a bop!
Yeah, I liked that.
Okay, I loved that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for looking it up.
Girl,
Didn't
I
even
got
cross
you.
my mind. You know, I hate
Nope.
music.
I know you do. Freak.
All right. So Scranton is also famous for being home to the fictional Dunder Mifflin, the paper company from the U.S. Adaptation of The Office. While much of this series was filmed in California on a set, there were a lot of locations shot outside the Dunder Mifflin office that are real places in Scranton.
Mm-hmm.
So some of those locations include the Pennsylvania Paper and Supply Company.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a real business. It is still in business. And while the characters never visit it, it is featured in the opening credits.
I drove by it, the little tower.
Yeah.
It's cute as hell.
It is really cute.
Scranton's adorable. It's an adorable little city.
Aw, I like that.
Yeah, it's real cute.
Did you know that Poor Richard's Pub is a real pub?
Yep, because I went by there too. I did my own little driving tour.
Well, it's inside a bowling alley.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe there's like an outdoor entrance. But that's the South Side Bowl. The pub is a real place that is open 7 days a week and is depicted and mentioned frequently throughout the series. It's used as a hangout spot for the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
How cool is that too? Like that this business just was picked.
mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, it had to have elevated their business as the popularity of that show grew. And like certainly Office fans like make pilgrimage there.
Yeah, so a lot of these
All the time.
a lot of these places sell, if they're like
Merch.
retail spaces, they sell the Office merch.
That's genius.
The marketplace at Steamtown, formerly known as the Steamtown Mall.
Town Mall.
So this is where Phyllis got kicked out of for harassing author Sue Grafton.
Yeah, because you told me not to take no for an answer. And then they kicked me out of the store in front of all of my friends.
You told me not to take no for an answer.
I literally just watched that episode. I've been watching, they added more Superfan episodes. I love watching those.
Oh, yeah.
The extended cuts on Peacock. Not an ad. I just am depressed and this is the only show I watch.
But also Peacock, get at us.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of TV.
Lot of housewives.
So while you're at the marketplace at Steamtown, you can get your picture taken in front of the Scranton Welcomes You sign that is also featured in the opening credits.
Mm-hmm.
This was the one I got most excited about. Alfredo's Pizza Cafe is real.
Not Pizza by Alfredo.
Not to be confused with Pizza by Alfredo, which is fictional.
Yep.
Alfredo's Pizza Cafe says, quote, "Beyond pizza, we serve salads, wraps, burgers, subs, pasta, steaks, seafood, and more."
Oh my God. I should have gone there. What was I thinking?
You weren't.
I weren't.
I weren't.
I was still reeling from my near-death experience at Are You There, Goddess of B. Margaret.
There was a cop outside. I couldn't go in.
Still reeling from the dysentery.
Okay, so also Scranton City Hall, which gets a few mentions and appears also in the opening credits of The Office. In 2021, stars Oscar Nunez and Kate Flannery, a.k.a. Oscar and Meredith,
and Oscar, yeah.
virtually presented a Dundie Award to Mayor Paige Cognetti and the city. So the specific Dundie was called the best hometown of The Office, Dundie.
Not busiest, bushiest beaver.
No.
Poor Phyllis.
So the Dundie is on permanent display at City Hall.
That's so cute.
And apparently John Krasinski shot several scenes from the opening credits because he visited Scranton and he was just driving around researching his role and shot some raw footage on his camera.
That makes so much sense because you can super tell that a lot of the street shots are from a car with not a nice camera.
Yeah, those were probably from John Krasinski.
Cool.
Also, I loved this little fun fact. Mary Potus, director of membership at the Greater Scranton Chamber of Commerce, received a call from Philip Shea, who was the show's prop master. So she became his liaison for the city of Scranton, and she advised him on how things should look and even helped Shea get some items for the show.
That's awesome.
Eventually, Mary created an annual prop drop at the marketplace at Steamtown, so local business owners were invited to bring items with their company's logo for a chance to be featured on the show.
This is so fucking cool.
So, you know,
I really do appreciate how many community efforts that the showrunners actually made.
Yeah. You know, on the filing cabinet next to Dwight's desk, there's that sticker that says
Froggy 105 or whatever. Is that a local radio station?
It's a local radio station. Isn't that cute?
My mind is blown. I love this.
So sweet. I love fun facts about The Office because they're all so genuine
and cute
and adorable.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, the adorableness is about to vanish because we're going to get into my case.
Cool. Yay. I'm glad we had fun for 2 seconds.
I just, how much do you really want to know about Scranton?
I turned it off before we went feral.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm ready, I guess. Be like Jan and just sniff my candle. Whenever
Blow
I get
it out
stressed
first.
or frustrated.
Oh my God. Okay, I have a new favorite Target candle.
Okay.
I think it's called Green Oak and Moss.
Ooh. In one of those glass jars?
Yeah, it's like a threshold.
Yep.
It's a threshold candle.
Threshold.
Green. It's either Green Oak and Moss or Green Moss and Oak.
Okay.
Both kind of make sense.
And it's in a green, like a light green jar.
Well, they have varying jars now, so that you can pick whatever looks best in your home.
Oh, they have the tin, the glass.
Mercury glass, printed glass.
Target.
The wax on this is white. The label that I have is green.
Cute.
It smells really good.
All right. Well, next paycheck, I might be making a Target run.
Yeah.
Let's make some bad decisions with our money.
Highly recommend that.
Highly recommend.
Rocket Bunny. Okay.
I was just gonna say, I gotta check my Rocket Money app and see what my candle budget is, my Target budget for this month. It's like, you don't have one. Please stop.
Shad was looking for something in my cabinets the other day, and he happened across my candle cupboard.
Oops, all candles.
Oops, all candles. And he was like, holy shit.
You have a lot of candles.
I run through them.
You do, and you rotate them out, and you're very good about like seasonal selections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen.
It's almost fall candle season.
Yeah.
Baby.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before I start this case, I want to give a fair warning that we were only able to find exactly one source on this story.
Okay.
But that one source is a compilation of information from a bunch of primary sources, aka newspapers of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody just went through newspapers.com and pulled a bunch of
together the
information,
story.
put it into one big
Cohesive.
post.
Got it.
But so just fair warning.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go back to 1904.
Oh, shit. All right.
Mary Warner was a German-born immigrant who worked as a janitress at the Lackawanna County Courthouse. She cleaned offices in the evening. Mm-hmm. She lived with her husband, Jacob, and their young son, Floyd Wilhelm Warner.
Okay.
Warner.
Very German.
Mm-hmm. In the rear of a home, or possibly the basement of like someone else's home. So they were like subletting.
Yep.
They didn't have a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
In 1904, Mary and Jacob had been married for around 12 years, and their son was about 7 years old. Mm-hmm. I will note here that there was a 19-year age gap between Mary and Jacob.
Okay, Mary and Jacob.
Mm-hmm. And that
if it works for you and you're safe and weren't groomed, good for you.
Well.
Oh, God.
And that they had suffered through one miscarriage before having Floyd.
Oh.
At the turn of the 20th century, Lackawanna County and Scranton in particular were very dangerous places to live. And there had been multiple reports of murders and violence in the area in the year of 1904, and we'll get to it. But we're at the evening of November 26th. Mary was on her way home from work. It was initially believed that Mary left her job around 9 p.m. and took a streetcar that dropped her off near Bannister's Bakery around 9:30 p.m. Mm-hmm. There, she was thought to have stopped by the bakery where she picked up 2 loaves of bread and a Dutch cake for her family. Yum.
Aww.
Her home was only half a mile from there, so she was just walking from there. Mm-hmm. And when she was just 3 blocks away from her house, she was attacked and clubbed to death.
Oh my God. And what time of day was this?
This was at like 10 o'clock at night.
Yikes.
Mm-hmm. 3 blocks from her home.
Oh, that's awful. It's all awful.
Yeah. Yeah. Her body was not discovered until the next afternoon.
What the fuck?
When 2 men, possibly boys, it wasn't clear, named William Jackson and Alfred Hunt, were returning home from a nearby baseball field. Her body was found in a vacant lot at the corner of Foster Street and Albright Avenue in an area that was then called the Diamond Flats.
Okay.
Pretty gross neighborhood for being called the Diamond Flats.
Yeah.
Curiously, she was positioned in this open area where anyone passing by could have seen her. She was just 15 feet away from the road and like about that distance, like away from 2 different homes.
Wow.
Where people were like on the porch the next day.
Oh,
so, like
God,
nobody
just didn't see.
Saw her.
Oh, that's so creepy.
I think that that morning there was like a dusting of snow.
Okay, so maybe she was covered a little bit.
I think she was just like covered, and it was like just enough that nobody looked twice at it.
Yeah, she blended in. Poor thing.
The baked goods were found strewn nearby.
No.
Police wondered why it took so long for anyone to discover her body. Even her husband had passed by that lot twice that day while he was attempting to look for his wife.
And didn't see her.
And did not see her. When detectives stood across the street, they stated that they were able to see the body in plain view from the nearby homes. But then again, like, maybe the snow had melted by then.
Maybe.
The coroner believed that it was a single violent blow to the left side of Mary's head that killed her. Her wounds were so substantial that he ruled it an instant death. Second instant death of my segment.
Yeah, what the hell?
It was believed that the actual crime happened near the vacant lot, and then her body was dragged to the area where she was found. It was also thought that she was molested after she was murdered, but this wasn't explicitly stated in the papers just because of the culture of the day. So we don't know for sure if that was true. With little information to work with, the city of Scranton put up a $500 reward for information leading to Mary's killer. And today that would be just north of 17 grand.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
People argue that this tragedy could have been prevented if the city council had adequately funded the police. One article that I read said that there was something like 40 police officers for 20 square miles of city.
Yeah, but how densely populated, like the miles and how many people actually live there are two different things.
I think there were 102,000 people there. I have it later, but yeah. So
I mean, I understand that sentiment, and also like, unless a cop was right there at the time that the attacker stumbled upon this woman, the existence of police does not prevent crime.
I think this is just like the public outcry. It's a
1,000%.
hindsight reaction.
And I completely understand that. I completely understand that.
So soon after her body was found, investigators were quickly able to identify the murder weapon as an oak club that was found near some railroad tracks and had bloody fingerprints on the handle. It was
an oak club.
It was described as about 3 inches in diameter at the top and about 2 inches at the bottom. So it was like, club shaped.
Yeah, like a little bat.
Like a little bat. The oak club was later identified as a cant hook, which is a tool used in mines to handle heavy timber and logs. I have a picture of a cant hook.
Okay, good, because I can't wait to look at the cant hook. I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's a really brutal looking, it's like a stick with a hook on the end.
It looks like one of those retractable, what are those called?
A nifty nabber?
No, it's a weapon. And it like...
Oh, like a police baton.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it looks like that meets a drumstick, but it looks like where you grip it has a creepy hook on it.
So the creepy hook is the opposite end of where you grip it, and you can use that hook to like swing and hook into heavy logs and like
but I thought
move
it
the
said
logs.
It can't hook.
Okay. It's can't hook.
Just saying.
Can't hook.
It can't hook.
Don't be such a can't.
I'm so sorry.
So the lower part of the club where usually there was that hook had been sawn off. So it was just the wooden part.
Okay.
Investigators also found a bloody handkerchief near the tracks.
Got it.
The more investigators looked into Mary's life, the clearer it became that the Warners did not have such a happy marriage.
Uh-oh.
Jacob, like I said, was much older and in poor health. The two often fought about money. Jacob was described as too frail and ill to hold a job, and when he was healthy, he was like jumping around from job to job. He wasn't keeping any kind of stable work. Mary would do laundry for money and had just started working at the courthouse as the janitress. Lackawanna County stepped up and offered $2,000 for any information that could lead to a conviction.
Damn.
So that would be around more than $70,000 in today's money. So that's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
I think that the county was feeling pressure to be like, she was one of your employees. The cops are only offering this much.
Yeah, step up.
They stepped up. It was believed that this large sum of money would entice reputable detective agencies to take on the case or send someone to investigate it. Many leads followed after the announcement of this second award.
Yeah, you don't say.
It was reported that a man was arguing with Mary in her home before the murder. Mrs. Bloom, a friend of Mary's, reported that Mary had told her of the incident. So this would have been like days before.
Okay.
So Mary had told Mrs. Bloom that she was in a verbal argument with a man, but refused to share his name. She
So
also
it could have been her husband, but we don't know.
Yep. She also added that she and Mary went downtown afterward to meet with a railroader named Ed. It was reported that Ed and Mary had an intimate relationship and that he could have been connected with her murder.
Uh-oh.
So she was yelling at someone. She wouldn't tell her friend who it was. I didn't get the sense that I feel like her friend would have known if it was Jacob.
If it was her husband, yeah.
But it could have been Ed, and it could have been someone else who we'll get to. Another man named John Garrity told police that he was walking home Saturday evening, the night of Mary's murder. He saw a man in a long trench coat with the collar up and a hat covering his eyes.
Ooh, I don't trust that.
Fishy as fuck.
Yeah, popped collar. Red flag.
He also said he saw a woman matching Mary's description following behind this man, carrying a couple of packages. Bread.
Which would be consistent with what errand she was running.
Yep.
Okay.
So Garrity said he kept checking in to see if the woman was like okay.
Like he was following at a distance.
Like the woman was behind the suspicious man.
Okay.
And Garrity was like, I think like maybe across the street. I don't know which direction he was going, but he kept like turning to make sure that she didn't have like a weird encounter with this creepy man.
Okay.
Eventually, the woman passed the mystery man and turned onto like a side street that led to a bridge that crossed the river.
Okay.
And it was on the other side of this river where her body was found, and also where there was like, I don't think I saved the map, but like you can see there's a grid of city blocks on the first side of the river, and then on the other side it looks like just like railroad yards or something.
Okay.
Like it's a stretch of not much there.
Okay.
And not many streetlights for being the electric city.
Oh, not living up to your name, Scranton.
So he told himself that it was a, quote, lonesome way to go because he knew that it was like dark and weird over there.
Yeah.
And when he got home, he shared this story with his wife. The next day, when word of the murder spread around, Garrity couldn't help but think that was Mary, whom he had seen the night before.
Oh, God.
Based on Garrity's account, it was believed that Mary was walking home from her job when her assailant saw her and started following her. It was also determined that Mary went to not Bannister's Bakery, but Turnbull's Bakery, just a different bakery. So they were just tracing the route that she took home, basically.
Sure.
So, she had bread, but it wasn't from Bannister's. It was from Turnbull.
So she must have been over here.
From there, she crossed the Lackawanna River via the DL&W train tracks and started walking home.
So it's not even a pedestrian bridge. Like she crossed a railroad bridge.
Correct. But I don't know if in 1904 that's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. But it was a railroad track bridge. So the man followed her and attacked her in an area of town that was notoriously dark and had no street lamps. It was presumed that Mary lay dead at the corner where she was initially attacked for quite some time, given the amount of blood that was left at that scene.
Oh, and he came back?
Police believe the attacker struck her and then hid until he knew no one had heard the attack. And once the coast was clear, he dragged her lifeless body across the street and into the field where he further assaulted her. The man then took off towards the railroad tracks to escape, ditching the club and the handkerchief.
Oh, no.
Yeah, isn't that gross?
Oh, it's so gross.
What a lonesome way to go, indeed.
Oh, that's so creepy.
Mm-hmm. Just 2 days after Mary was found, her paramour, Ed, turned himself in. Edward Jones, a former railroad brakeman, felt he needed to turn himself in to clear his name. Great logic, bestie.
So wait, he turned himself in as in admitted to the crime?
No,
or
he
went in to say,
he-
we had an affair, but I didn't kill her.
The latter.
Got it. Okay.
He just went into the police department to clear his name.
To cooperate with police.
Because I think at that point the papers had published that she had a lover named Ed who was a railroad man, and he was like,
so he was going to get found out.
Yeah.
Immediately people are going to know.
Yeah. He told police that he and Mary had been friends for over 2 years. Ed said he was out on Friday afternoon with Mary and Mrs. Bloom, as Mrs. Bloom had stated. So this is the afternoon before
she
her
was
murder.
killed.
The three had drinks before Mary left for work and Mrs. Bloom returned home. Ed stayed out and visited other taverns in town, and later he met up with Mary after work and walked her back home. So this was Friday night. And then they made plans to meet up again on Monday. Ed said he was not guilty, but he added that while at the saloon on Friday night, Mary had told him and Mrs. Bloom about her argument at the house earlier that day. So it was not, the argument was not with Ed.
Not with Ed. And she still wasn't telling them who that person was.
Yes.
Interesting.
So in his initial interview with investigators, husband Jacob told police about a man named Caffrey who had been at the house several times. The man had fixed some plumbing for the family, but Jacob believed that he and Mary were also seeing each other. Jacob was jealous, and friends told police that he would often confront Mary about her friendships with other men. So it sounds like Mary had male friends. Her husband was jealous, whether or not she was sleeping with them.
Yeah, and whether or not the friendships were appropriate kind of doesn't matter, because none of that is a justifiable reason for homicide, but it obviously her husband felt some type of way about it.
Yes. Her husband, yes. So we also have to wonder if Jacob was just throwing this Caffrey dude under the bus to get the attention off of himself, to be like, oh, my wife flirts with so many men, it could have been any of them.
Yup. But if he's as like weak, quote unquote, frail, quote unquote, I'm feeling the ableism in some of this, but as they say, is he capable of taking her out in one massive strike, one blow, and then dragging her
well,
to a field?
So there are reasons to think that Jacob just had a massive drinking problem.
Okay.
So maybe him being, quote, frail and weak and moving around from jobs just meant that he was drinking a lot. Because again, all of these sources are from newspapers, and so the language
1904 or
the
whatever.
language that they use isn't always very literal. So that's all we know. So jealousy became the suggested motive for Mary's murder, yet detectives couldn't decide if it was Jacob's jealousy of his wife's interactions with other men or if it was one of her supposed lovers and their jealousy. Further questioning in the suspect interviews revealed that the man Mary could have been arguing with on Friday afternoon was a, quote, rag peddler.
Okay.
Police brought Caffrey in for questioning based on Jacob's statements. Caffrey told police he would frequently see the peddler at the Warner home. So we have Ed, the boyfriend, the paramour.
Yep.
We have
Caffrey,
who's the plumber, and then we have an unnamed rag peddler.
Okay. The cast of characters is
we don't know
long.
who she was arguing with in the home.
Okay.
So Caffrey said he would frequently see the peddler at the Warner home. Caffrey also denied any involvement in Mary's murder. He admitted he had been in the Warner home, but it was just to repair some water pipes, like Jacob said. As for an alibi, he claimed he was out Saturday night in downtown Scranton, probably at Poor Richard's.
Probably.
Oh, primarily at the Valley House Tavern.
Same diff.
Same thing. and arrived home at about 1:45 a.m. on Sunday. He named the people he was out with that evening to like cement his alibi.
Yeah.
So Caffrey was let go and Jacob was brought in for another round of questioning because the cops were like, this all kind of comes back to you, dude.
Yeah, especially if you are pointing the finger at all of these different men that you're accusing your wife of sleeping with. Like, that's starting to look sus.
Yes. So when Jacob was questioned again, he told investigators that he often saw Mary with other men. He didn't like it, but he didn't see too much of a cause for concern. Like, he didn't like it, but he wasn't, like, obviously enraged while he was telling them about it.
Sure.
He claimed that he and his son went to sleep around 8 p.m. that evening while Mary was still at work. At about midnight, Floyd woke up crying for his mother, but Jacob told him to just go back to sleep. And when they woke up at 5 a.m. and Mary still was not there, Jacob became concerned. So together, Jacob and their 7-year-old son went to the courthouse to look for her. They were told that she left there around 9 p.m. the night before. This concerned Jacob even more, and they retraced what they thought would be the route that Mary had taken to go home.
But they might not have known she stopped for bread or like anything else that she did.
So they probably didn't know her exact route because the initial thought was that she stopped at Bannister's bakery and turns out she stopped at a different bakery. And maybe her route changed a little bit because there was that weird man. So maybe she
weird man, it's dark.
Took a detour. Who knows?
Who knows?
The father and son passed within a few feet of Mary's body, which I mentioned was slightly covered in snow from an early morning snowfall, but apparently did not see her. Police also questioned Floyd, who again is 7.
Oh, God. Come on.
He essentially told police the same things his father had told them. Around this time, another person piqued the interest of investigators, but they remained quiet about who that potential suspect was.
I want to believe that the only reason they were questioning Floyd at all was to confirm or like try to corroborate the dad's whereabouts.
Yeah. I mean,
and his story, and not in an accusatory way against this 7-year-old whose mother has just been brutally fucking murdered.
We'll get to it.
Great.
During this time, an analysis performed on the handkerchief determined not only that it was human blood on the handkerchief, but after confirming that the Warners had no similar items, that it was the killer's handkerchief with Mary's blood on it.
Wow, okay.
There are a couple of things that contributed to the cops super botching this investigation. For one, when Mary's body was discovered, looky-loos just came out of the fucking woodwork from all over to come see the scene. I think because the papers were like, she was right there. You know, people want to see it.
Anyone could have seen her. And then that's going to fuck up the crime scene with all these people coming through.
With some accounts saying that there were thousands of looky-loos.
Oh my God. Thousands?
Probably over
Come
like
on.
a period of time, but still.
Yeah, that's wild.
Also,
have a different hobby, says the true crime podcaster.
Ooh. Also, because that reward from the county was so fucking high at what would be 70 grand today, there were amateur sleuths from all over. Like
trying to get a piece of the pie.
Yeah. So that kind of backfired because they were like, oh, we're going to get some reputable government agencies to come in and help us. And it's like, nope. It's Bobby from 3 towns over that thinks he knows better.
Who's starting a podcast in 1904.
Yeah.
And he needs that funding, so he better solve this case.
He does need that funding. It's not going well so far.
No.
So I think that's why we had so many bogus leads and the cops were just wasting their time and resources on them because, again, it was a small police department. And in the end, the papers claimed that the motivation must have been jealousy, which is like kind of victim blamey. Like, could we not call it homicidal rage on the part of a man?
Right.
And just leave whatever Mary chose to do with her own fucking time and free will out of it? By December 9th, an editorial appeared in the Scranton Republican newspaper. In it, the paper urged patience with the investigation. It also brought up the unsolved case of 30-year-old Mary Quinn in West Scranton, who was murdered similarly 2 years prior.
Another Mary.
Well, it's 1904.
Not fair. All right.
Still, the newspaper claimed that case was an exception. They reiterated their faith in the investigators working on this case. So this was bullshit, though, to say that they weren't related or that, like, these cases were just kind of one-offs.
They're isolated. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So I found another article with the headline, "Murders Now Common. Number of crimes committed in this county has increased with startling rapidity."
Oh, dear.
It lists all murders committed in Lackawanna County in 1904, which clearly made a stir in a city with just over 102,000 citizens.
Yeah.
So,
Did it say how many? Do you know how many?
16 murders,
Oh,
including
that's a lot.
Mary Warner
Yeah.
and Mary Quinn. A week later,
Yeah.
investigators stated that every lead had been investigated and nothing new had surfaced. They believed it was the work of one man, but they didn't have enough evidence to justify arresting anyone. On December 28th, just over a month after the murder, a new piece of information was uncovered. It was learned that the club was used as a baseball bat by Floyd and his friends just days before Mary's murder.
Oh.
The club had disappeared from the Pembroke mine on Wednesday before the murder. So they interviewed the head guy at this mine. And he was like, "Oh yeah, we had that cant hook that the hook broke off, but we were still like using it. It was still like in our, on our property, in our supply pile, whatever."
And somebody like nicked it and we haven't seen it since.
Someone nicked it on Wednesday. Yep. It's believed that Floyd found the club under the porch. I don't know if it was like the porch at his own home or some kind of
In
porch
the area
at the
of
mine.
murder or at the mine. Okay.
It's believed that Floyd found the club Thursday or Friday when he and his friends used it as a baseball bat, probably at that baseball field that was close by. When they were finished, Floyd put the club in a trash barrel behind their house, leaving the soon-to-be murder weapon easily exposed and accessible, especially by someone who lives at that house. Even with this new information, the police did not have enough evidence to make an arrest. Months passed with no new information, and with no closure in sight, the community rallied around the widower and his son. They held a raffle to raise money for the family. One of the newspaper articles was like, raffle of sewing machine for the benefit of the widower, like postponed till Saturday or something. They were they were collecting things to raffle off to just get money for them.
to help.
Which I thought was a very sweet kind of small town thing to do.
It is sweet.
Okay, so they held a raffle to raise money for the family that was down on their luck, but that support was short-lived. By May of 1905, neighbors complained. So this is like 7-ish months later.
Okay.
Neighbors started complaining that Jacob was not properly caring for his son. Floyd, who I think was 8 around this time, was seen wandering outside by himself from dawn to dusk, often with little to no clothing on.
Oh, God.
Neighbors would frequently feed him throughout the day. Before long, the juvenile court intercepted and petitioned to gain control of Floyd, and Jacob lost custody of his son and then returned to petition the court within a few months. And he was able to take Floyd back, and they moved in with friends in Petersburg.
Okay.
However, a year later, Floyd, who was now 9 years old, was back in the custody of the city, listed as a, quote, neglected child. Floyd became the first child in Lackawanna County to be assigned to a probation officer.
Oh, wow.
Which I think might have just been like a social worker.
Yeah.
In February 1907, Jacob petitioned the court again to return Floyd to his care. The court agreed, and Floyd returned home to Jacob, but once again, Floyd found himself under the city's custody. By September 1908, Jacob presented himself to the poor board. Guess that's a thing.
Yeah. For impoverished.
Yeah. Like you go before a board and they have to grant you various social services.
Okay.
So he petitioned to be accepted in the Hillside Home, also known as the Poor Farm. And this is where Floyd had been staying because it's like orphanage /
probably like
shelter.
a work program if it's on a farm.
Well, I don't know that it's on a farm. It was like colloquially known as the Poor Farm.
Got it.
So,
but it's like a group home kind of.
It's like a group home.
Okay.
So that's where his son had been staying. So he petitioned the poor board, quote unquote, to send him there so that he could be where his son is. Mm-hmm. So the board granted his request and Jacob moved into Hillside Home like the next day. So that was in 1908. On May 19th, 1912, Jacob passed away from cirrhosis of the liver. And that's what led me to think that that there was alcohol in his life.
Got it. Okay.
So at this time, Floyd was 15 years old.
And they still have no clue what happened with Mary.
No.
Wow.
Her case has gone cold, but Jacob's body was crammed into a box with another man's in order to save money on shipping because they were shipped to the Anatomical Society in Philadelphia, where they would be distributed to medical and dental facilities for research.
Wow.
He might be at the Mutter Museum.
Maybe. That is sad.
Yeah, that's what happened to a lot of people who were like, too poor to get buried or were unclaimed, Mm-hmm. Upon his death, one lawyer was quoted as saying, quote, "Surgeons may ply their knives and steel for the hidden mysteries of the human body, but there is one secret locked up in the breast of that man that no surgical skill will ever find."
And it's the secret of what happened to Mary.
Isn't that creepy?
I
love that
really
quote.
Creepy. Yeah.
By 1920, Floyd was a quote-unquote inmate at the Pennsylvania Training School for Feeble-Minded Children.
Oh, God.
In Middletown, Pennsylvania, just outside
take care
Philadelphia.
Of our mentally ill at all.
Yeah.
Oof.
So Floyd was 22 and was said to be, quote, a progressive lad, contented and a favorite among his companions who, like him, are wards of the state. So he got, good reviews.
Oh, God. He was well liked.
I think he was a good boy.
Mm-hmm. I don't think he did it.
I do not think that Floyd did it.
No, I think it's tragic and unfortunate that he, unbeknownst to him, left what would become the murder weapon in an easily accessible place to be used in an attack on the street. Mm-hmm. That sucks. Mm-hmm. But he's a kid.
He was 7 years old at the time.
He was 7 years old.
There's no way that
baseball.
Floyd could have done it.
No, and he ditched a stick in a garbage can. Yeah. That's all he's quote unquote guilty of.
Yeah.
And then his life fucking fell apart because probably one of the only stable people he had was brutally murdered at a formative time in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of getting this kid support and therapy,
he was left with a neglectful father for years
and then became a ward of the state
several times. Yeah, he went through so much trauma.
I feel terrible for this kid.
There were also kind of indications, kind of more modern speculations, that he was on the autism spectrum, which, I mean, whatever his condition was, he got psychologically fucked from this entire situation.
He sure did.
So Mary's case eventually went cold and her killer was never brought to justice. There were a few instances that brought hope for closure, but no charges ever stuck. So two men, 26-year-old Robert Perry and William Pegram, I don't know his age, were arrested in 1907 and 1914 respectively under suspicion of Mary's murder because they had committed similar crimes nearby. And I think Pegram was arrested for and charged with the other Mary's murder, Mary Quinn. Okay. But later...
That also had similar circumstances.
Yeah, but they later found out that he didn't commit that crime, so he was released from prison for like whenever they established that it wasn't
Didn't do
him.
it. Okay.
It is also worth noting that both of these men were black. So
Easy targets in that certainly still now, but like they were probably targeted because of the color of their skin.
Yeah. So Mary was buried at what was known as the Little German Cemetery on North Washington Avenue in Scranton, where her stillborn son had been buried in 1894. So she was buried next to her first baby.
Yeah.
In 1995, the county allegedly reinterred the 300-some bodies from that cemetery and moved them to the Dunmore Cemetery. But 2 years after that, in 1997, construction crews at the former Little German Cemetery dug up a body that had been left behind.
Oh, no.
And there aren't any like real concrete records about which bodies were moved where.
So they don't even know?
So we're not completely sure that both Mary and her baby
Ever made it.
are buried together at this new cemetery.
Oh, that's really fucking sad.
I know. So hopefully they are where they're supposed to be so she can rest as peacefully as possible. But this lady got fucked.
Yeah, she's been through it.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So that's my Kate. That was the fan picker, by the way.
Oh, God.
Thanks
what
a lot,
case.
Denise. I know,
Yeah,
it was
Denise.
weird.
So weird.
And while I am enchanted by the notion that maybe her son did kill her because, like, it's such a, like...
You love a creepy kid.
I love a creepy kid. I love the Burke theory, all that stuff. But I don't think that it was Floyd.
I don't think it was either. I mean, the most likely culprit is the husband, always. But this also could have been a random attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It might not have had anything to do with any of her special friends.
The rag peddler.
Yeah, leave the rag peddler alone.
Yeah. Anyway.
What a weird mystery.
Weird. Well.
And, well, now, if that just, the thing with the reinternment, too, is really frustrating because it's like, if for whatever reason something new came about or some forensic evidence that could be tested came about, they don't even know exactly where this woman is buried to potentially exhume her and cross-reference any kind of evidence.
Correct.
Like, it's just that her being kind of missing in some ways really seems to seal that this case will never be solved, in my opinion.
And a couple different things about that. It's not just the internment. It's the newspapers at the time. Like I said, I only found one cohesive article about this. We're piecing together primary sources from the day, which, like I said, often aren't just said in literal terms.
Well, right. And there's a lot of like prejudice, and I mean, there still is now in the media, but yeah, they didn't even want to necessarily name an extramarital affair or a struggle with alcoholism or
whether she'd been sexually assaulted after her death.
Yeah. And then the papers are just kind of running with these like sensational but like colorfully written stories about it that then draw these massive crowds.
It just kind
seemed
of
like it was well handled in any way.
This is just like a really clear demonstration of how the truth can slip through so many fucking cracks, and that media literacy is important, that what we do in our job is reliable, because people could be listening to our stupid shit 50 years from now. I don't know why, but we just, we got to keep things tight, historically speaking, factually speaking, in the media. Yeah. I don't know. It's sad.
What is it? If it's 2074 and you're listening to this,
get help.
I'm sorry. And if
none of our
Talkspace is still a
discount codes
thing,
still work.
Yeah, see if you can still get that Talkspace discount. Promo code GALS, baby.
Hopefully that $80 off takes inflation into account.
Oh my God.
It's $600 off your first month.
I don't even want to think about that.
Ew.
All right, well done. Okay, well, are you ready for my case?
Yes.
This crime took place in 2017 at a beloved Scranton area pizza shop, not Alfredo's Pizza Cafe.
Okay.
And the case was cold for years, which is fine for pizza, but not fine for crimes.
Mm-mm. Don't like a cold case.
No, but an arrest was finally made just recently in May of 2024.
Oh, shit.
Yep. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the pizza shop. The pizza shop is, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but it's either Gigarelli's or Gigarelli's Pizza.
Okay.
The restaurant was founded in 1920. It was purchased by Robert Barron's father. And Robert Barron is the victim in this case. So his dad.
Is this like Barron's Pizza? Red Baron?
No.
Mm.
But like, what worse name could you have than Robert Barron? Robert Barron. I mean, I'm sorry. This guy, this guy is an innocent victim, but like that's quite a name. That's a tough
name.
Yep. So his father bought this pizza place in 1961, but kept the original name, kept the recipes. They specialize in a pizza style known as Old Forge style pizza, typically rectangular on a crispy, thick crust. It seems to be similar to like a Detroit style pizza. It's giving rectangle if you live in or around the Twin Cities.
Oh, it's so good.
If you're not eating at Rectangle, they have a Lynn Lake location and a St. Paul location. Like, what the fuck are you even doing? It's their pepperoni pizza.
It's
I know it sounds boring.
I've ever had.
It's straight up the best pepperoni pizza. The crust is like perfect. The cheese is like caramelized onto it, and it has it's not too thick. It's not like deep dish. It's still got a nice crunch to it, but it's also doughy. Oh, it's so fucking good. I can't. So anyway.
They have perfected the pizza.
They've really perfected it. The origin of this pizza is believed to be rooted in the Gigarelli family. Mrs. G would serve her pizza to local coal miners who gathered to play cards at the family's bar back in the 1920s. And I guess like mining, as you mentioned, was a big part of the industry here. Mm-hmm. The family would eventually open a pizza restaurant, and it was this restaurant that Robert Barron's father would purchase in 1961. So suffice it to say, this pizza place is a community staple.
Okay.
The restaurant was a cash-only business, and it was family-run. So they always had cash on hand, but this never really made them feel unsafe because Old Forge is an old coal mining town, with the height of the population in that area reaching just over 14,000 people, which certainly isn't tiny. And it's like in that Lackawanna County, like greater Scranton area. But like the community, especially the miners that were like there to work, it was a tight-knit community. Everybody knew them. They knew everybody. It never was a problem that it was like, oh yeah, they have cash there. They should be careful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They never felt like they would be targeted.
No, they never felt like they would be targeted. It was an important fixture of the community. People had grown up with the restaurant. They continued to go there as adults. The Barron family knew everybody. They really honored this like time-honored tradition of this pizza shop. And while they aren't part of the Gigarelli family, they wanted it. They still paid homage to them and wanted it to remain a family business.
Okay.
Robert, whose father bought it, but then he ended up taking over, was well liked in the community. He was often seen behind the counter making pizza. He was warm, welcoming, friendly, and just a really hard worker. Like this guy had multiple jobs. He worked his ass off. So just to give you a rundown of like a typical day for Robert, he would show up at the pizza shop between 6:30 and 6:45 a.m. to meet the dough delivery guy who came like basically every day. So they had fresh pizza dough.
Dough livery.
7 a.m., dough livery is received. Robert would then go pick up his son, Bobby, between like 7:30, 8 o'clock, he'd bring him back to the pizza shop. The pair would stretch the dough. Bobby's an adult, but he's pretty young, and we'll get to Bobby. They would stretch the dough, get the restaurant prepped for the day. Then Robert would go take care of other businesses because he was flipping houses on the side. So he'd check on his properties, and he was also taking care of his elderly and like unwell. She was sick and bedridden, his mom.
Okay.
So every day at the crack of dawn, he would like open the pizza shop, get the dough, pick up his kid, have his kid kind of take over getting ready, go check on his properties that he's flipping to like make sure contractors could get in, etc., and then go care for his mom, and then go back to the restaurant to work in the afternoon for like lunch, dinner rush.
Oh my God.
Often while he was out and about, he would go to check in on his other kids before they like moved out of the house. He'd check in with his wife. Then he'd go back to the restaurant, finish getting things prepped, ingredients shopped for if they needed anything. Then they'd open the restaurant for the afternoon lunch rush and into dinner. So like this man basically only worked and took care of his family. That's all he did. He did not have leisure time. He was a really hardworking dude.
Okay. Am I allowed to like him?
Yes.
Okay.
Robert dropped off his son Bobby back at home the night of January 25th and then went back to the business after it was closed, probably cleaning up, getting everything ready for the next day. And he also had an apartment above the restaurant that he would stay at so that he could meet early morning deliveries. And there were also reports, though this wasn't highly publicized, probably because they never got divorced and then he was killed. But he and his wife, Maria, were allegedly separated at the time. And so he was spending more nights in the apartment than he had before. And it wasn't uncommon for him not to be sleeping at home.
What is this like modern times now? What year is
2017.
This?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
2017 when this happened. So when his dad bought the pizza restaurant, it was a family-run business. And I believe the Gigarelli family had lived upstairs. So they bought, like, the whole building was part of the business. Mm-hmm. He ran the pizza shop and then would often stay in the apartment upstairs, mostly to just accept really early morning deliveries. But then it was becoming more of a habit.
It was a spare apartment for him to go, so he didn't have to sleep with his wife at home.
Correct. And I don't know any other details about what was going on in that marriage. From everything I know, like, they did love each other very much. It's possible they were just growing apart. This happens. Their kids are leaving the nest. Their son Bobby also had some troublesome history, which can put a lot of strain on a marriage. There's nothing that leads me to believe that like anything bad was happening between Robert and Maria. They just like possibly we're going through a rough patch.
Yeah, that happens.
Yep. So he went back to the apartment and the pizza shop after dropping Bobby off at home on the night of January 25th, 2017. And then the morning of January 26th, he did not greet the delivery man as per usual. And the guy was just like, oh, he might be running late. Maybe he has a family emergency. Like, I know what to do. I'm just going to leave this dough in this spot by the door. He'll come grab it. I'm going to move on with my day. Robert then didn't show up to pick up his son for work, which is part of the routine. To go get, he'd usually accept the delivery and then
Bobby,
get things prepped, then go pick up Bobby.
Yep.
So Bobby's like, this is weird. Calls him. He's not answering his cell phone. So Bobby walks to the restaurant because the family home is only a couple blocks away. The restaurant was locked up. It looks completely secure. No sign of forced entry. But then Bobby sees the dough outside and is like, this is not right. So it's about 9 a.m. He calls his mom to see if she had seen him because he didn't seem to be at the restaurant and it's locked. I don't think Bobby has keys. She thought that maybe he was at his mother's house checking on her, but when she swings by her mother-in-law's house and his car's not there. So she's like, okay, he's not there. Then she went by some of the properties that he had been flipping. Still doesn't see his car. She contacts a realtor that they're working with on selling one of these houses to see if he was maybe at one of the properties that morning, if he had discussed with the realtor that he was planning on visiting any of the properties that day, but the realtor also hadn't heard from him. So like nobody knows where he is.
I don't like this.
Okay, Bobby does have keys. So Bobby checks out the restaurant. He's making note of things that he felt were out of place. Like there was an Afghan blanket that usually was upstairs in the apartment, but it was down in the like bar area where sometimes Robert would sit and watch TV, but he wouldn't, knowing that he had to like clean up and open up the restaurant the next day, it wouldn't make sense. He wouldn't leave his stuff from the apartment down in the pizza shop.
Yeah.
Then, like a scene, honestly, I read this and I was like, this is out of a fucking horror movie. Bobby called his dad's cell phone and it rang from the other room. Like he could hear it in the other room.
No.
I know. Doesn't that just like give you chills? I hate it.
I hate it.
Hate it. So he followed the sound and discovered the phone was sitting on top of the restaurant's dishwasher. So now he's like, the pizza shop doesn't look quite right and my dad's phone is here, but where's my dad?
Ugh.
Maria shows up. She checks the upstairs apartment. She noticed that the bed's comforter is missing, but there is no sign of Robert.
Oh, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Not good when the comforter is missing.
No. At this point, Maria is panicking. She starts calling hospitals. She calls the police to report Robert missing. The family knows something is off. Like, this is not fucking right. All Robert did was take care of his family and work. His wife and kids, his ailing mother, like the restaurant, the side hustle of flipping houses. Like, they knew that he would never in a million years just walk away from his family willingly. Something bad had to have happened to him. And he had just spoken to his daughter, Brittany, who is one of the older children who had moved out of their home a little while ago. She was living in Philadelphia, and Robert and Maria, Brittany's mom and dad, were going to go visit her that weekend in Philadelphia. So, like, he didn't leave of his own volition. Something happened to him. The family also agreed that money was missing, but they couldn't agree as to how much. And this is a little bit weird. Estimates varied from a few $100s all the way up to $40,000 potentially missing from the business.
Like cash?
Yeah. And again, the establishment was cash only. They likely had cash on hand in a safe as well as the till, but 40 grand does seem like a lot for a mom and pop pizza shop. Like, even if you were behind on deposits, that's a lot of money. In 2017.
Like your bank account. Yeah.
I mean, I wish that was my bank account. Holy shit.
I mean, that is a sum of money that you would have in the fucking bank.
Yeah. So I would venture a guess somewhere in the thousands was missing, but probably not quite that high. But unfortunately, Robert managed the finances and he's missing. So without him, we likely can't get a clear picture of how much cash was actually stolen, because I don't think Maria or Bobby really knew how much cash on hand the business had just sitting.
Oh.
So they were just like, I don't know, anywhere from this much to this much is gone. But there's definitely, like, the till's empty. And I mean, maybe they checked the safe. It's like, money is missing. I just don't know how much. Also missing was Robert's car. One of the neighbors of the restaurant said that he remembers seeing the car at the restaurant property until about midnight on the 25th. But after that, it was gone. And they hadn't seen it return. But they hadn't seen anything suspicious.
Okay.
They didn't see Robert leave. They didn't see anybody else. They just, like, at one point they noticed the car. And then when they went to bed, the car's gone.
Okay.
Although it was normal for Robert to stay in the upstairs apartment, it wasn't like general knowledge that he was staying there. So that raised some questions about the person that may have, like, abducted him or killed him. We don't know at this point. Did that mean that this person was close enough to the family to know that he would be there and wouldn't be expected home?
Or didn't know that he would be there?
Didn't know. And it was like he accidentally, by surprise, interrupted a robbery.
Especially if he's
but there was
down
no forced entry.
In the dining room.
But there wasn't forced entry. So, like, how would a robber have gotten in?
Maybe he left it unlocked.
Maybe. If he was hanging out there, it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
Police would investigate the presumed scene of the crime at the restaurant, and they did find spots of blood on the floor and baseboards, as well as spots of blood on that Afghan blanket that had been left in the dining area.
It frustrates me so much when there's just little spots of blood.
Well, they whipped out the luminol.
Yeah. Okay.
And that would reveal...
Did she light up like a Christmas tree?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
It would reveal that there appeared to be an attempt to clean the blood from the crime scene, and there were household cleaning products like sitting out. And the investigators said that the blue glow of luminol covered the bar, the walls, the bathroom. Like there had been blood everywhere. And some of that luminol is picking up, like if it's in the blood in the bathroom could have been him, like, or whoever did this, cleaning out rags, things like that. Like it got in the sink and then he tried to like wipe it away, and it's obviously
and then that's
not that
everywhere.
easy to get rid of. Yeah.
Jesus.
So smear, like there might have been some spot spillage on the bar that he tried to clean up, but then it like smeared everywhere. So we know there's a good amount of blood there, but you don't know how much.
Okay. Because
So
it's just been wiped around.
Yes. So it's not enough to determine, like, certainly it's enough to determine that a crime took place here, but they couldn't figure out if, like, Robert could be presumed dead from that evidence at this point.
Okay.
Pieces of broken glass were found in the bar area, and glass, a cigarette butt, a tooth, and hair would be found in the restaurant's utility sink.
A tooth.
Yep. The tooth was determined, and the blood were both determined to have belonged to Robert.
A tooth.
A tooth. So they're like, okay, there was obviously a violent attack. Hair is ripped out. There's a tooth. There was a struggle here.
How'd the tooth end up in the sink?
During cleanup, he scooped all this evidence up and probably thought it's in the utility sink. Maybe there isn't like a catch in the drain. Probably thought that they could put it down the drain. But I'm telling you, like, they open up the pipes for shit like that. They can find blood that's been put down a sink with water and chemicals run through. Like, you're not gonna get away with it.
That also just suggests that there was like more than just blood. It was like goo, a viscera.
Yeah, it's not great. Based on all of this evidence, police determined that a violent struggle took place inside the restaurant. It was hastily cleaned up. Excuse me. There would be extensive search efforts made by police, friends and family, complete strangers in the community, everyone who knew Robert, everyone who knew the restaurant. They're all showing up in droves to search for him. Divers searched the Lackawanna River. Police would comb security footage from local businesses, and ATVs, helicopters, and dogs were all used in the search to find Robert. The investigation, however, would fizzle out. The rumor mill in the community suggested all sorts of possible motives, but none of them were supported by enough evidence to lead to any kind of arrest at that time. But there was a little bit of drama to pursue around Robert. So apparently there was a disgruntled contractor that he had worked with on some of his flip properties, and this contractor like was not holding up their end of the bargain in terms of what they promised to complete on these home projects.
I feel like it'd be really easy to disgruntle a contractor.
Oh my God. Is there anyone easier to disgruntle?
Yeah.
And Robert sued him and won a $14,000 judgment against him. So they're like, okay, there's someone who had no enemies in the community, but like maybe this person could have held a grudge against him because of this. But that doesn't seem
murderable,
Yeah,
worthy.
that doesn't seem strong enough. So there was also a woman that Robert had hired to help care for his mother. And he later had to fire her because he found out that she'd been stealing from his vulnerable and elderly mom.
Come on.
And wrote herself a total of $36,000 in stolen, forged checks out of his mother's account.
It's like, okay, fucking life. That's so
I know, right?
horrible when people do that.
Financially motivated crimes, though. It's like, okay, here's two people that might have had a motive to rob the restaurant, and if they weren't expecting Robert to be there, and then suddenly they're in a situation where it's like, oh fuck, I gotta kill this guy.
And they know him, so he would have been easy.
He would have let them in.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that they could have easily tracked him, and if he'd been going home most nights, you know what I mean?
It definitely seemed to be somebody that they know.
Because he let him
They
in.
also, because there's no sign of forced entry. And unless Robert fully left the door unlocked and by some random happenstance, that was the time that a robber came in, which is possible. It's possible that Robert had interrupted a burglary. Again, it's a cash-only business. People knew this in the community because they knew they had to have cash to go there. It was apparently well known that Robert often had large amounts of cash in the building. It was also rumored that Robert may have had gambling debts. People were kind of going out of control with this one, though, saying like maybe it was a mob hit.
Yeah.
This last one was especially not supported by any evidence, but the small town where everybody knew everybody just like wanted answers, and they're all pulling things out of thin air to figure out what the fuck happened to this like beloved member of their community. So they're still looking for his car, which hadn't been found yet. He was driving a 2006 Hyundai sedan. He had borrowed it from a friend because he was without a car at the time and was planning to go car shopping when he visited his daughter that weekend in Philly. The Hyundai would be found days later, so like early Sunday morning on January 29th. It was still in town. It was found on the 100 block of Howard Street near the Lackawanna River and less than a mile from the restaurant. The car was found by a family friend who happened to also be a former police officer. He called it in. And this former friend/former cop had actually been driving around for several nights looking for the vehicle and discovered it around 2 a.m. in this location and called the family. Jeez. So it's very possible that whoever took the car had still been using it or moving it around in that time, because this guy had been looking for it in this little community for days. And then suddenly 2 days later, he finds it in the middle of the night, just parked on the street on Howard Street.
Oh, so wasn't he? Okay, so he had definitely looked in that spot before.
I don't know, but it's not a huge area. So I have to imagine he's probably combing the streets like...
And he's probably not the only one doing this.
Exactly. Everybody knows what car he was driving. It wasn't a secret that he had borrowed the car. Like, people are looking for it because they know it's missing, and then suddenly there it is. Little strange. Robert's body was not inside the car, but there was excessive mud on the car's tires and undercarriage, and a large amount of blood was found in the interior of the car.
Oops.
The blood would be matched to Robert Barron.
Oh.
Blood of an unknown origin was also discovered on the steering wheel of the car and later on like the driver's side grab handle. So I think like that handle above the window to help you like get in and out.
Yeah, that opens the door.
I don't think it's the door handle. I think it's the one up above. But in 2017, both of these little blood samples would be insufficient to establish a DNA profile. It wasn't enough. The blood that was determined to belong to Robert was of a significant amount. So much that Robert was declared dead despite the lack of a body. It was like, it wasn't survivable. There's no way.
Okay.
Local
so that's
witnesses,
what they couldn't determine from the luminol.
Yep. They couldn't determine that from the scene, but from the car, there was no doubt. That's how much blood was in the car. That's horrifying.
Yeah.
Local witnesses would state that the car had been used and moved multiple times, specifically that they had seen somebody get out of the car that Thursday, the day after Robert was discovered missing. So people did see the car being used and saw someone getting in and out. Bobby Barron, their son, stood out as a suspect because he was the last to see his father alive, and he had struggled with substance use disorder, which was well known in the community. And he certainly felt that this stain on him had tarnished the investigation into his father's disappearance. And I think he's likely right. There is a big problem with stigmatization of addiction. And though substance use disorder can have extremely dangerous ramifications, especially if you get wrapped up in a bad deal or unpaid debts, like outside of just what it can do to your body, it can certainly more high risk behaviors will often go along with long-term substance use disorder, but it's not always the smoking gun answer that investigators often want to make it. And it can be pretty easy to point at someone with a history of abuse and like write this shit off as their fault. And that's kind of what they did with Bobby at first.
I'm watching, obviously not right now, I'm on the second episode of that Max show called Taken Together.
Oh, I haven't watched that yet.
It's so fucking good. Apparently I went to college with the director.
Oh, shit.
So like,
Good old Iowa.
well, it's about the disappearance of Lyric and Elizabeth from Evansdale, which is just next to Waterloo.
Oh,
So
shit.
they disappeared in 2012. And then there were like 2 other sets of young girls who were taken also around Iowa around the same time. But I think it's Lyric's dad and mom had substance use disorder. They had both spent time in prison for like
Possession
drugs and
yeah.
meth in particular. So yeah, that kind of like fucked up the early days of the investigation. And people still, they still don't know who did it. So people still think that it could have been unpaid meth debts from the dad or whatever.
And maybe it was. But like, what frustrates me is that doesn't mean we don't look beyond that possibility. So Bobby gave an interview with The Vanished, and he said, quote, "I have a drug history. The people that we think that are involved in this, I may have had a past with one of them. So they automatically thought when everything happened, they didn't really do any work, the investigators, from the onset of this, because they just pinpointed me. They just thought I was the one that did it, or I knew what happened. So there was just such a lack of effort. And I don't want to sit here and berate anybody, but it's been very frustrating. I felt totally alone through this whole process."
Oh, that's really sad.
It's awful. Bobby also admitted giving his mother $5,000 in cash soon after the robbery. Some of that cash even had blood on it, but he would theorize that the blood came from the customers of the restaurant. He would state that since he didn't pay bills, it was saved money that he wanted his mom to hold on to for him because of his drug problem. So he's saying it's like tips and money that he'd been paid in cash for working for the family business. He gave it to his mom to hold on to because he'd been sober for several years at that time and didn't want to hold on to his own cash. He didn't trust himself with his own cash. Years later, police would even search the safety deposit box where his mom had held this cash, and it would test 2 of the $100 bills that did have blood on it. It wasn't a lot of blood. There were just, there's so much gross shit on money.
Yeah.
And they did test the blood. It didn't match anybody involved in the case. So that was if you have a stack of cash, odds are some of it's got fucking blood on it, whether you can see it or not. It's got blood,
At
it's
least
got poop,
cocaine.
it's got drugs. Yeah, cash is filthy. It's vile.
It's worse than your phone.
Oh my God, it's so much worse
It's
than
worse than your
phone.
bed sheets.
Oh God, miracle made, please. The family believed that the culprit was someone Robert would know and recognize. Had it been a random person, then Robert would have just handed over the cash. They don't think he would have, even if he had interrupted a robbery, they're like, I don't think he would have risked his life. He would have just given him the money. But they theorized that Robert had interrupted the theft by someone that he knew and recognized, which is actually pretty compelling because I feel like that person might be more likely to kill to cover it up because they know they'd be connected to it rather than just a totally random person.
Yeah.
People burglarize establishments all the fucking time at random and absolutely get away with it. But
Yeah.
when you're connected to somebody.
Try to break in and he's like, "Oh, hey Bob,
Hey, pal."
what's up?"
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Now I have to kill you.
Uh-huh. I never really thought about that before, but like that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The panic would be higher, I feel like,
Totally. Yeah.
because they can identify you. The family would vehemently deny the possibility that their son Bobby was involved, although Bobby and the family would immediately point to a man named Justin Schuback, Bobby's friend and drug dealer, as the likely culprit. And he certainly fit the boxes. So Justin and Bobby, they were close friends. They were brought together by drug use. Justin's drug dealer was a guy named Pat. Justin would get drugs from Pat. Then Bobby would get drugs from Justin. Pat referred to the pair as inseparable and stated that due to the pair hanging out all the time, Justin would certainly know the routine of the restaurant, the location of the cash, and with him being even Bobby's best friend, like he probably knew that Robert and Maria were separated, that Robert was sleeping at the restaurant apartment. Like he would have known a lot of this stuff.
But does that make it less likely then if he knew Bobby was going to be, or Robert was going to be there?
Well, he might not have known that Robert was going to be there, but maybe he just knew, he knew where everything was and like had that connection.
And maybe he assumed he'd be upstairs and not in the restaurant proper.
It's very possible. And Justin was also, so Bobby was in recovery, but Justin was not.
Okay.
And so his judgment is not exactly sharp.
Maybe there's not a lot of rationale there.
No, and he was in financial trouble. So their friendship did, in the beginning, revolve around drugs, but they would also hang out socially, either at Bobby's apartment or at the restaurant where Robert would give them free pizza and let them hang out. So Robert was like sweet to them.
Oh.
Bobby also admitted to having previously stolen cash from the restaurant safe, and Justin was present and saw how he had done it. So he did it by leaving an upstairs window unlocked and then climbed up a ladder and climbed through the second floor window to the safe. So it's possible that there was no sign of forced entry because he could have set this up too. Like Bobby, not Bobby, but like Justin, I'm over hanging out with Bobby. I'm going to just sneak over into this room and unlock the window so I can get in here. I know how Bobby stole the money. I'm going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Police agreed that he was a likely suspect. He was interviewed several times, the first in March of 2017, but nothing came of it as there was no physical evidence that could connect him to the crime. Because remember, the little bit of blood that they collected that they determined wasn't Robert's, the DNA tests were inconclusive. They could not get further DNA profile off of it.
That's really frustrating.
It's very frustrating. And the town rumor mill would notice that unemployed Justin, who was known for being like broke as a joke, suddenly was flush with cash.
Ooh.
But the evidence in that regard apparently was not compelling enough to charge him with Robert's murder, which actually isn't that shocking because, again, they'd yet to find Robert's body, and that plays a huge role from an evidence standpoint. They can know he's dead from the blood in the car, but without the body, they don't know time of death. They don't know
exactly how he died.
Killed.
Yeah.
And likely there's a lot of other, especially if there was a struggle, there's probably a lot of DNA evidence on the body itself that they can't collect that could connect them to a suspect. Yeah. They don't have it.
And they still don't have the comforter.
So the cops are still chipping away at their investigation. So what we had at this point, May 31st, 2018, they find the DNA on the handle, the door handle of the Hyundai, 2 weeks to create a profile. July 5th, 2018, investigators start working on cell tower information that allowed them to track Justin's movement on the night of the murder. Then on October, that goes on for well over a year. Now it's October 24th of 2019, and another DNA swab from the door handle is collected and able to be matched to Justin Schuback.
Ooh, so that did match.
Mm-hmm. Oh. November 25th, 2020, DNA swab from the steering wheel was able to be matched to Justin Schuback.
Okay.
March 23rd of 2023. This is taking for fucking ever. I don't know why that wasn't enough to arrest him, but I guess it still wasn't.
Still not even arrested.
He's not arrested. He's not arrested yet. I'm wondering if it's because it's like, well, his DNA could have gotten in that car in any number of ways because he was good friends with Bobby and like they're all borrowing the car. Who knows? I don't know why they did not press charges against him at this point, but
they wanted to get it locked up.
Yeah, they probably just didn't want to try to put everything on this one tiny piece of DNA, which I also do kind of get, but it's devastating how long this took. So March of 2023, detectives mapped out exactly where Justin's movements were that night using cell phone tower information.
Pings.
They had some of this information as early as 2018, but it was incomplete because of like technology. And I guess now with the more advanced technology, they're able to analyze this data in a more concrete way, I suppose. There had apparently been forensic advancement. So the cell phone tower data was able to more specifically pinpoint his location than what they were able to obtain in 2017. That's the only explanation that I could get. Quote, there were advancements in the forensic analysis and the cell to tower information to give us and law enforcement a better pinpoint location as to where the remains would be. And this is from District Attorney Powell, who was working on this case. So it's 2023. They still haven't found Robert's remains. He's been gone since 2017.
Yikes.
March 28th, 2023, investigators and cadaver dogs search for and finally discover human remains in the Connell's Patch section of Old Forge. DNA from the remains would confirm that they belonged to Robert Barron. The cause of death was determined by the medical examiner to be blunt force trauma to the head.
Yeah,
March
that
30th.
would cause a lot of blood.
Yeah, it would. March 30th of 2023, Justin is finally arrested at his home in Old Forge and charged with one charge of robbery, one charge of burglary, and one charge of abusing a corpse, one charge of theft, and first-degree murder. Wow. And I know that I said at the top that this case had gone cold. That was really just to make a pizza joke. It wasn't really cold, but it was significantly stalled. And
that was just to make a pizza joke.
That was just to make a pizza joke, but it was stalled for years. And I find that pretty fascinating because from what we know, it was stalled largely due to technological advancements still being made since 2017, that recently, that would allow for evidentiary analysis that could hold up in court. Like before, they couldn't collect enough or evaluate thoroughly enough to feel like it could hold out in court.
Yeah.
And like between the multiple passes at DNA testing and the cell phone tower info, even in 2017, we didn't have access to the kind of tech that allow us to pull these tiny scraps of data or DNA, usable evidence that we do now. And I just think that's wild that we're still making pretty significant leaps and bounds.
One might call it exponential.
Yeah, because it's what they ended up charging him on, the evidence they ended up charging him on is the same evidence that we've had since they started investigating this.
I mean, that's probably why they were holding out, because they knew what was going to be available to them in a few years down the road.
It's possible.
I think that they do have a pretty good grasp, because like forensic people go to conventions and they hear from like technological pioneers about like what's coming down the pipeline. Because they technically have the technology, but it takes a long time for it to be like proven and approved for like actual use in police departments.
Right.
So I can see that being a reason why they were like, well, we can't arrest him yet because we need to wait for...
It's not strong enough, the evidence that we have. And and we know this tech is coming down the pipeline, so let's just hold off. That does make sense. But it's also, I mean, that's devastating for the surviving family members that are like, we know it's him.
Yeah.
Go get him. It's but
he could be doing the same fucking thing still.
Yeah, and if you're gonna make an arrest for something this violent and this awful, you really do want to make sure you're getting it right so that everything will hold up in court. So there's just no chance.
It's not getting out.
Yeah. So with all of this, they were able to determine the events leading up to Robert's death. A few weeks before Robert disappeared, Justin hit up his drug dealer, Pat Boyle, and told him he was sick, from heroin withdrawal, and that he needed drugs. But he also told Pat, I'm unemployed, I don't have any money. So in exchange for drugs, Justin used his grandmother's credit card to pay $200 on Pat's utility bill to trade for heroin. But his grandma caught the charge, was like, no, and put a stop payment on it. But that wasn't until after Pat had already given Justin the drugs.
Oh, shit.
So the utility bill that Pat thought was paid was now due, and he'd already given Justin $200 worth of heroin. Pat begins to harass Justin to get his money. He's calling him, he's texting him, he's threatening to beat him up.
Now Justin's desperate.
I mean, The tragic reality of all of this is that Robert died over $200 worth of drugs.
Mm-hmm.
It's just senseless and sad, and also speaks to how devastating substance use disorder can become.
Mm-hmm. And the ripple effect.
And the ripple effect. I mean, Justin must have felt so desperate to have done something like this. And I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just seeing how sad it is on every fucking level.
You can look at all of this whole situation, and like see the depths of
the tragedy.
Yeah.
Without giving him a pass.
Yeah.
So January 24th, Bobby texts Justin just that morning saying he needs drugs. I guess he specifically asked him for crack. They agreed to meet up outside of the restaurant that evening, and Bobby gave Justin $50, and under the pretense of having to go get the drugs, Justin left and never returned. So he stole the $50, but that's obviously not enough to pay the $200 that he owes Pat. Then the next day is January 25th. That's the last day Robert is seen alive. Bobby's the last one to see him at night when he drops him off at home.
He kind of was killed over $150.
Yeah. By all accounts, it was a regular day for Robert. He worked, he checked on some properties that he was flipping, and he returned to the restaurant around 9:30, 10 p.m. Then he dropped Bobby off at home. This is the 25th. Returned to the restaurant and went up to the apartment to sleep, watched some TV down in the kitchen, whatever. By this time, Justin still owed Pat, and he told Pat that he would have the money later that night, but he had to, quote, do some work first. So at 12:15, now early morning on the 26th, Justin texted Pat to meet up, saying he had the money that he owed, plus he wanted to purchase 11 extra bags. So I've got the $200, and I want another $100 worth of heroin.
Okay.
When they met up, Justin pulled out a very large wad of cash, and he had more in his pocket. This was Pat's testimony. His cell phone movements on the 25th and 26th. So throughout this time, Justin's girlfriend, who lives with him at their apartment in town, was texting and calling Justin, wondering where he was, which is like pinging his phone near all of these towers. So they could determine that from 9 to 11 p.m., he was at home, where he shared an apartment with his girlfriend at 3 Foundry Street. He left home around 11 p.m., 11:28 to 12:12 a.m. He's stationary at the pizza shop. This is during the time that Barron allegedly was killed. So they were able to solidify down to within an hour the time of death, which is pretty good. Around 11:25 a.m., behind a UPS store in Old Forge, which is where the drug deal with Boyle would take place, is the next pinpoint that they could find from his cell. Yep, Pat Boyle.
Okay.
12:39 to 1:45 a.m., he was stationary back at the pizza shop. Powell said this is when Schuback would have been cleaning up and preparing to dispose of Barron's body. So Powell's one of the investigators. From 2:01 to 2:15 a.m., the car was stationary in the woods near Pagnotti Park. Quote, this is where he dumps the body, Powell said. Around 2 a.m., he texted his girlfriend to tell her not to call or text him because he didn't want his phone to go off where he was, and he would explain when he got home.
You fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Jesus.
2:22 a.m. on Connell Street, where witnesses claim to have seen the Hyundai that morning. The cell phone pings confirmed that it would have been in that spot. 3 to 6:30 a.m., it was stationary at his home on Foundry Street. Justin's live-in girlfriend would state that he climbed in a window to get home and that he was out of breath as if he'd been running and his shoes were covered in mud, which the car had also been covered in mud. When asked where he had been, he told her, don't worry about it.
Always a satisfactory answer from your boyfriend.
If you ask your partner a pretty straightforward question and the response is, don't worry about it.
And if it's not February 13th.
Yeah, exactly. Or like the day before your anniversary or whatever.
Yeah.
Definitely worry about it.
Yeah. And
would
if
be
his
my
shoes
recommendation.
are also covered in mud.
And he's climbing through a window?
It's not
Come in the front door.
It's not a good surprise.
Why are you climbing through a window into your own house?
Why was he climbing through the window?
I don't know.
Did they have a Ring doorbell?
Maybe. I have no idea.
Wow.
Justin would later claim that he was gone for so long and had gotten so muddy because he was avoiding the cops, and his girlfriend knew that he was using drugs, so I think she just kind of accepted this. Like, I was out with Pat, I got some drugs, and I was just evading.
Detour.
He took a detour, I had to hide in the park. Like, that's definitely a plausible story.
Yeah, especially if, he's probably fucked up. He probably took something to deal with the body.
For sure. Why wouldn't you? I would.
I fucking would.
Yeah. Just bought $100 extra of heroin. You've got it. I probably, if I knew that my partner, was using drugs, I probably would accept this excuse.
And if you're living with someone who's that into drugs, there's a good chance that she probably was too. And it's like,
it's very possible. It's very possible. I don't know really anything about her. She had nothing to do with this. She seemed to cooperate with the police and give her testimony. And I hope wherever she is, that she is doing okay.
Yeah.
From 6:30 to 8:30 a.m., the car, based on cell phone pings, or his location, was back at Pagnotti Park, where Powell said he was spending more time disposing of Barron's body, like making sure it wouldn't be found.
Was it found, buried?
I'm not sure. But, it wasn't found for years, so I would imagine, and they had to use cadaver dogs and all of this data pinpointing, I imagine it wasn't just lying in the open. He probably did bury it.
Or covered it under the comforter.
Maybe.
I
think if he was buried, he was probably buried wrapped in that comforter. And that's probably why it was missing. That'd be my guess. I think the comforter was used. Well, I don't know the details about the comforter. We don't have an explanation for why the Afghan was laying out. I think the comforter is missing because it was probably used to transport Robert into the car to drag him. And then he stayed rolled up in it and then was probably buried with it. That would be my guess.
Yeah. Logical. Yeah.
Yep. So the cell phone pings around 8:39 a.m. indicated that he was moving the car from Connell Street to Howard Street, where it was later found. So he had been using it to go back and forth from crime scene to crime scene for days to deal with this. 8:41 a.m., he's walking to Ari's gas station. Video showing Schubach entering and leaving the store was previously shown to the jury. 9:01 a.m., he returns home at Foundry Street. So those are like the key points over the course of the crime and the covering of the crime that really implicate Justin, plus the DNA that was in the car.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting out of this one, boss.
Yeah.
In the days following Robert's murder, Justin would continue to message Pat for more drugs. Pat eventually refused, saying he wasn't selling due to all the cop activity searching for Robert, but it does indicate that, again, Justin's unemployed and suddenly he seems flush with cash and he's wanting to buy a lot of drugs from Pat. Another local dealer would state that Justin was also buying from him during that time. So Pat said no, and he went to somebody else.
As you
would.
As you do.
At trial, Bobby, under oath, continued to deny any involvement, but he did acknowledge a sense of responsibility, saying, quote, "We were raised better than this. I brought these people into our lives. That's where I feel a sense of responsibility." I can only imagine how fucked up Bobby Jr. must feel, knowing that his close friend / drug dealer was the one who killed his dad. I mean, that's beyond. I hope he's okay too. He testified that he had struggled with drugs for the last 15 years, supporting his habit through the restaurant, and admitted to stealing smaller amounts of small bills from the register as needed to support his addiction. He had been sober for the last 7 years, but had recently relapsed, which is why he had texted Justin for crack the day before. I don't think they'd even really been hanging out that much. And then they started hanging out again because Bobby relapsed.
Mm-hmm.
Prosecutors would state that intent on robbing the restaurant was why Schubach showed up, but that he didn't expect Robert to be there. D.A. Powell described what happened next as a, quote, horrific, violent altercation, which left Barron dead in a puddle of blood. defense would try to point fingers at Bobby Barron, suggesting that his father was finally going to cut Bobby off due to his drug habit, but this would be unsuccessful. And also, that was not supported by anyone in the family. Like, Robert was feeding Bobby and his like drug dealer friend free pizza in the restaurant.
Yeah,
It
the
wasn't-
family would know if it had escalated to the point where Robert was going to
cut him off. I
off.
mean, Maria would certainly know. His wife would certainly know. And so
Yeah.
there was nothing to support that was the case. Justin would be convicted of first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison for the murder charge, with another 7 to 15 years added for the robbery. For the Barron family, they'd been waiting 6 years, not only for a conviction, but just for Robert's remains to finally be released to them.
Oh, God.
It's like the remains were found, not in what, 2023,
They're
and then they had to be
evidence.
held for evidence. And so they finally were able to bury him in June of 2024.
God, that was
Almost
like
7
yesterday.
years later. Yeah,
Wow.
that was just a couple months ago.
Dang.
I can't imagine what they went through. They were not giving statements to the media after Schubeck's sentencing hearing, but in that hearing, they were able to make victim impact statements. Apparently, they were very powerful and intense, understandably so. And then I guess when the media approached them when they left, they were like, nope, we've said everything we need to say. We said it directly to Justin. We just want to go be with our families and heal from this and like put our dad to rest. So like, please fuck off.
Yeah.
And
Put it all
I just,
behind us.
it's just unimaginably sad.
It really is.
But yeah, that's my case. Lackawanna County, y'all.
Cool. Lackawanna.
Wild
no
times.
Lack or want of violent crime.
Yeah, but at least we've got Harry Chapin.
We're gonna get sued.
It's only a clip. It's fine.
It is my new
Play
favorite
the whole
song.
song. Well, thanks for listening, y'all.
Thanks, Denise Average.
God bless you. I hope you don't get hit by a truck carrying 30,000.
Stay away from bananas.
Do not drive.
Just don't leave your house.
Don't leave your house. That's our recommendation pretty much always.
Or do leave your
And-
house if it's about to get robbed.
Yeah, I don't know. Either leave or don't leave your house. Neither one seems like a good option.
Go watch City of Angels.
Yeah, let's do that. That's the plan.
Let's do that. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, lovely listeners, for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.